It's time for the 32081 Scoreboard Show. Let's recap the latest weekly scores and highlights from around the county.
And welcome to this edition of the 32081 Scoreboard Show. As always, I'm the Todd, and right here to my right, the man, the myth, the legend, the hardest working sports reporter in Northeast Florida, and especially right here in St. Johns County, Mr. Anthony Richards from the Ponte Vedra Recorder. Hello, Anthony.
Hey, Todd. How's it going?
I'm doing great. I mean, this is getting exciting now. We're getting down to the end of the season. I'm getting pumped up. The Sharks, the Panthers, they're rolling. I mean, the playoffs are starting to take a little bit of a look here. So, I don't know. I'm getting excited, man. I really like this part of the year. I'm really excited that we get kicked off, and now it's like, okay, let's go. Let's get ready, because we got two good teams going here in the 32081.
Yeah, it's that crunch time where you're always kind of got your eye off to the side, looking at the rankings, every week in and week out, and because those are all important at the end of the year.
So listen, before we get started, Tony Hodge from the JV Green Team over at Nease, and we'll talk about our JV teams a little bit later in the season as we start wrapping up, because we'll talk about them coming up into the varsity, what to look forward to next year. But I got to give him a shout out. Since he was on our show, the Green Team finished off with a win. They finished 3-1-1. I think that's great for a freshman team. So I want to give him a shout out, as well as his coaches, Gresham White, Jim McLeod. Jim McLeod, by the way, I've got to know him. He's actually, he runs a lot over at the Cobras. Did you know that, the 7-on-7? He does a great job over there with that organization, with those young players. So big shout out to him. Chad Meadows, who's also over coaching and volunteering over at PIA, Derek Patterson, Tim Brown. So congratulations to Tony Hodge, his coaching staff, and all the players over there. JV Green freshman getting it done with a 3-1-1 record.
Very nice. Yeah, it's good to see a freshman kind of, introducing themselves in a big way.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, making a mark, right? So yeah. I got a little trivia question for you. Okay. Before we start talking about Ponte Vedra, and we've got Drew Price, he's going to join us on the show, Eason Windsor from Nease, and also KJ Perry. But here's a trivia question. I want you to tell me what all these players between Ponte Vedra and Nease have. Eason Windsor, Drew Price, Landon Okla, Derek Hardy, Robbie Greco, Noah Hodge, Cooper Froelich, Aiden Harris, and Evan Monty. Do you know, Anthony?
Let's see. Other than that, they're all,
if you
really
know
good
this,
players.
I'll be surprised. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about that lineup, first of all, when I say those names?
I mean,
Not
that's
bad, huh?
I take that lineup any day of the week. So.
Get this. They all played together on the inaugural PVA middle school football team under Steve Okla, and Tony Hodge was one of the assistant coaches there, as well as Steve Froelich. Bill Greco was also, but can you believe they all played? They were 7th and 8th graders on there. I mean, that's a stud lineup right there.
Yeah, no, that team's stacked.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Drew about it before we started doing the interview, and we're like, man, there's some dogs on that team in middle school at PVA that Steve Okla had. So, but anyways, yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. All right, so let's start off with Ponte Vedra, because you know what, Anthony, I started thinking about, I played baseball for like 18, 19 years, and I'm a little superstitious, and both teams are doing good with the flow we have. So why mess it up, right? Let's stick with it.
Yeah.
So let's stick with the Ponte Vedra game over at Orange Park. No real surprises for me. I picked Ponte Vedra to win this one. I thought they would handle it. Drew, 8 of 15 for 142 and 2 passing touchdowns, 73 rushing yards, I think. Brian Case, I mean, does he ever get anything less than 100? He put up 152 yards with an 8.4 average per carry. What the heck? Throw on 3 touchdowns, right? Defense played great, and they were able to walk away with a very convincing win over Orange Park. What do you think about this game?
I thought it was just another complete all-around game by the Sharks. I think they even blocked a kick again in the game. So it's the second straight game where special teams also, just all 3 phases, come into play and clicking in big-time moments. And it's just kind of what we've been accustomed to seeing now from the Sharks week in and week out. So it's almost at this point, if they don't play a complete game with all 3 facets, it's almost like a surprise. So it's just kind of a continuation of, what's been a great district year for them.
You know what? There's part of me that sits there and rewinds back to last year when Ponte Vedra replayed Creekside. Remember that first game in the playoffs? And there's part of me that's sitting there going in the back of my head, I'd kind of like to see that rematch with Fleming Island somewhere in the playoffs. I'd like to see the Sharks get that shot at them again, because, like you said, something's clicking. And I think every week is a and I'm going to talk about IMG in a little bit, but they are getting it done on both sides of the ball, and they are really starting to gel. And what's funny is that, when you look at Nease and the Sharks, in my opinion, watching them on the field, they take a different approach. Nease is out there. They're very cohesive. They're having fun. They're jumping all around. They're very loose, and they're out there to play football. And Ponte Vedra is very much businesslike. It's like they can, we talked about how do you rebound from the Nease loss. You and I were talking about the different possibilities. They took the up road. And we'll talk about Tocoi. Tocoi lost a big one. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but they lost a very close game. It wasn't, but Menendez. Well, they lost to Beachside is where it started, but they lost to Menendez this week. But don't you think that? I mean, Ponte Vedra's just taking it week by week, and they're very methodical, and they're very just, I don't know how to put it, week to week business like.
Yeah, and I think they do have fun as well. You can tell that was after they scored touchdown.
Who's not going to have fun playing high school football, right?
Yeah. But I think that's a kind of a credit to them, the way that they go about it. It just kind of at times seems like this is kind of what we do. This is our job. You do your role, I'll do my role, and we'll get out of here with the W, and a lot of times a convincing W. And it makes it look kind of, for a better term, like ho hum and like, oh, this is just what we do. But yeah, it takes a lot of hard work and practice during the week. It's definitely paying off in the games. And the coaching staff, Coach Price has these guys, focused and fixated on what the message is, and everyone understands the message, and they're all working together. It's been really, really fun to watch, and they've been really able to eat up on some teams here of late.
And with that said, why don't we go and bring in the interview with Drew Price, and you and I will chat afterwards about it. But right now, I'd like to introduce Drew Price. Drew, thank you for joining us here on the 320-81 Scoreboard Show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Drew, one thing I want to ask you before we get into really talking about football. I've known you since you were in 8th grade over at PVA, and I know we've kind of talked about the coaches and players that you've played with over there, but from someone that has been living in the area for that long, what's it like for you now? You're starting for the Sharks and you see the atmosphere, and I always talk about it at the different schools, but I was wondering from a player's perspective, how cool is it for you that, like, on some nights, you might be playing against your friends, but then during the week you're seeing them, or you might run into me or some parents, you might say, hey, Drew, great game. What's it like playing in the 320-81 and having the support of the community that you see week in and week out?
I mean, it's awesome. I remember being in elementary school and all throughout middle school going to these games. So get to see a bunch of friends that go to different schools. It's just a really fun experience. All
right, now let's switch over to football because I know that's really what you're here to talk about. I was talking to Anthony Richards, and one of the things that you faced was a new receiving core. And I know you've had a Cam Titi, pronounced it right? Did I get that one? And David Doherty also stepped up for you. So how is your relationship with them built? Because as I've watched you from week to week to week, you guys are just getting better and better and better. And it just looks like you guys are really working well together.
Well, yeah, we're asking a lot of them. They're like an underclass group. Camden, he's a sophomore. We're asking a lot of them, and they've been producing really well. Like we have Jack Berquist, he's a new starter. David's new starter, Cam, and we have Caleb Stanton also, that has stepped up to the plate after Landon left. So I think they're getting more confident throughout the weeks, and I really like our game plan with them. Like we can really use them to their abilities.
Now let me ask you something else. But I was thinking of that defensive front four over Ponte Vedra. That's just nasty. And man, Middleburg, their quarterback, I don't think there was any white left on his uniform at the end of the night. I mean, what's it like for you? Are you ever sitting on the sideline thinking, I'm so glad they're on my team?
Oh, every day. I had to go against them in practice every day, so I know exactly how it is. I don't really have much time, so I feel like it gives me a good look against. I know we're not going to be playing which teams like to have that D-line, so it's great. Also, we always get the ball back. They don't let up too many points, so it's really great to have them.
Has that helped you? Because going up against a defense that ferocious that you see in practice, and you being a dual threat quarterback, has that helped you, get better, I don't know, footing, skill-wise, running, deciding to pass versus run? Has it really helped going up against that front four in your game throughout the year?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've had to scramble out of the pocket more times, and, it's really helped me, extending plays, Yeah, they give me a great look every week, so I really appreciate them.
So I know you talked about Landon Oakla, for example, leaving, and there were other senior. He was a senior, but he moved away, and some of the seniors that left. But I don't know if you heard about this guy. You might have seen him around the football field, but Brian Case, I'm sure you're probably aware of him.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, you know, Brian. How's it been for you two to work? I mean, it's got to be kind of a sense of relief for you to have Brian. He's had a great season, he's broken records. How's it been for you to be in the backfield with him? And also, do you guys both feed off the ability of you being a dual threat as well as his power running to kind of keep defenses, you know, off balance?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely great. I can always rely on him. I know he's going to get 5 to 6 yards every run at least. So he really sets up our offense, and he opens up a lot of stuff for us. I think he's a great player, and he's one of my best friends too. So I've known him forever. So it's great. We have good chemistry. I feel like definitely great having him because you can always lean on him.
Let me ask you one last question. So last year, if I remember correctly, you finished off the season, you ended up playing Creekside again in the playoffs, if I remember correctly. And you ended up beating them in that round. You lost during the regular season. This year right now, and I'm reading different places where a lot of people seem to think that if the season ended today, they see the Sharks going up against the Barracudas from Beachside in the first round. My question to you is this, is if that happens, does having more time this year against the Barracudas help you because you see more film on them, or would you prefer to be back in a situation like with Creekside where it's a little bit closer together, or does it even matter? You guys just be ready to play football because that's kind of how you guys act. We're just going week to week.
I don't think it even really matters. We'll take on any challenge that's in front of us. I mean, it would be great to go against Beachside again. We didn't have our best game. I mean, even though we still came out with the W, we only won by 3 points. So I feel like we could do way better against them. But I'd also love to see Fleming in the playoffs too.
Oh, I bet you guys are itching for that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That was a heck of a game, man. I mean, I know it didn't go your way, but wow, the do not quit attitude and just giving it all. I mean, what a fantastic game you guys had. And like I said, I wish you guys would have gotten the W, but I bet you guys are itching to see them again.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We got to see how the final 2 weeks go. We could end up playing them, but I just know we're going to be ready whoever we play. So.
Well, Drew, I appreciate you taking the time off. I wish you the best of luck down, this Thursday you guys are going down to IMG, so I wish you best of luck with them and to finish out the season. I look forward to covering you all in the playoffs.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Anthony, as you heard, I talked to him right there about, you know, how it is for him to practice against a defense like he has in the number one squad with that fierce defensive line. And it was kind of funny. His reaction was like, he's happy he's not, facing them like that Middleburg quarterback was. But when you look at the Sharks defense and you look at the Nease defense, and they're both very good, that's got to really play into both Drew Price and Nate Harry getting ready for some of these big games because they're going against two of the top defenses, and it just helps them prepare so much better for some of these other schools.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, when you go up against day in and day out a tough defense and a tough coordinator, calling the plays, they're they're not gonna take it easy on you. Their job is to get their guys ready, plus get you ready, the other side of the ball. And so they're gonna throw different looks at you and maybe stuff you haven't even seen, even though you play them every day in practice. And they're gonna try to make you uncomfortable, and even in practice. And that's what I feel like that's what the good teams do, and the good players respond to it. Not like, oh man, I can't even, I'm struggling in practice at times. No, it's, you look in yourself and why are you struggling, or why did you make that throw in practice, and you correct it before you even get to the game, which is, what, great teams and great players do.
I thought something else that was interesting was that you and I were wondering how it was working with a younger receiver corps because, he doesn't have the 5 receivers that really came back like Nate did over at Eason. They really stepped up. You've got Camden Tietzen, you've got David Doherty, and Jack Burquest, and he was very straightforward. And I thought he was great. He goes, we put a lot of pressure on them, to step up, and I got to tell you, they've stepped up. They've played very well down the stretch, and they've given him a weapon. And with his dual threat ability, it's opened up some passes, it's opened up some runs, and those young receivers have really stepped up for him.
Yeah, the Ponte Vedra receiving corps is definitely one of the bright spots for sure. There's so many bright spots on both teams, but one of the not surprised, but just I'm very happy to see how they've developed, because that was a question mark group just because they're so young. There's a lot of sophomores and juniors, and they hadn't had a lot of playing time in that role at the varsity level, and now all of a sudden they're thrust into playing a lot of snaps, and the ball's thrown to you a lot more, and you're expected to catch it and get open, and they've been able to do that. And Drew's been able to find him, and he's really leaned on those guys, and they've leaned on him. And it's great to see when you're kind of senior quarterback and in a way like kind of comfort and take under his wings some of the younger receivers and make them feel comfortable, and they make him feel comfortable, and all of a sudden you've got a free flowing offense.
Yeah, they do for sure. So they will be taking on IMG White, or their varsity team. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. I believe they will be leaving Thursday. So is what Drew said. So they'll be leaving Thursday about 1:00. So wish them the best, but we'll cover that game in just a second with some predictions. All right, now let's switch over to the Nease Atlantic Coast game. 44-12, the Panthers came out. This one was a little close at the half, but Anthony, as we learned to expect from the Panthers, you give them the second half and they're going to pull away from you.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they did. It was kind of a little methodical. They've really been off it's been a long layoff for them, longer than even expected with the bye week, and then stacked on top of.
Well, somebody didn't tell Eli about that, because Eli came back with 2 interceptions, so somebody didn't tell him about the layoff.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, but offensively, especially, it just seemed a little. Maybe they were just a little finding themselves, and Atlantic Coast, kind of hung around, but then at halftime they just came out with a mindset of let's just it was. The field was a little wet, because just of some mist and all that had really developed, especially during halftime when the rain came down, and they just decided to just stick with the ground game and just pound the rock, and with KJ Perry and Andrew Moses, and they just marched right down the field, scored a touchdown, and that just seemed to set the tone for the rest of the second half, and they kind of ended up running away with it.
And on that note, Anthony, you led me right into our next interview with Eason Windsor. He is the starting center for the Nease Panthers offensive line, and we'll have to hear what he has to say about this. We had a little doubt, didn't we, Anthony? This was the one area of the offense that we were wondering going into the season, how were the Panthers offensive line going to be? And talked to Eason about that, and here's what he has to say. And now we are joined by Eason Windsor, the center for the Nease Panthers, and I believe he's in his car, just left practice, so appreciate taking some time. Eason, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
I would assume you're doing great being 6-0, huh? It's kind of nice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, Eason, I want to ask you, I'm just going to talk about the elephant in the room here. Going into this season, everyone knew about the receivers. They knew about KJ being behind the running back. They knew about, Nate's dual threat ability, but the one question mark on the offensive side was the offensive line. And I think you probably understand that because, lost players like DeMarco and other seniors. But this line, you guys have come together very quickly. Is it Coach Morales? Is it just you guys getting better and as the season goes on? Because I got to tell you, you guys are playing great.
Yeah. We did lose some guys last year. I remember senior night last year, and we were sitting at the team dinner table, and the seniors moved away because they all sat together on senior night, and it was me and Brandon basically just kind of sitting at the table alone. And we were like, well, shoot. At that point,
was that kind of eye-opening right then for you?
Yeah. At that point, we were kind of like, well, we don't know who's stepping up. We got to get some kids to step up. So I started last year until I hurt my ankle, and then Brandon was a starter, so we knew it. We had 2 returning starters, so we were like, we have the guards down, and we have a senior tackle, Sam McConnell. He stepped up. He had kind of been he was a junior on JV the year before. He was the 6th man. He was there if anyone went down. He played a couple games for Riley Mariani. And so he's the right tackle, and he's been doing a phenomenal job. And then we still had a couple question marks with the O-line. We tried out a couple different guys, and we ended up having a sophomore, Sloan Davis, really good kid. He's a bit light for the O-line, so I might say, but he's really fast and quick on his feet. And then our left tackle is really surprising. He's actually a freshman.
That's John, right? Is that John?
Yes, sir. John O'Dwyer. But John really stepped up. He filled that role, and he was able to get the plays down, and he's been really physical and just a good offensive lineman. I'm telling you, he's going to be a dog when he's older, because seeing him do the stuff he does as a freshman is pretty cool.
Well, he's about the size of a junior right now, isn't he? From what I've seen.
Yes,
he's a big kid. One thing, I got to tell you that I'm really impressed with the O-line and what you all have done is that usually when you look at a team and you look at the way their offense is run, it's either a run heavy or a pass heavy. And when you looked at this offense, bringing back 5 wide receivers that were very lethal, when you looked at KJ coming back and Andrew Moses, you guys can be passing on first or second down, you might be running on first and second down. How is that for an offensive line? Because you guys are so effective. Drafts can pretty much call any play he wants and knows you guys can block it. How was that as far as chemistry, you guys being able to get that far that fast? Because, like, again, you do a great job.
I remember last year we had some problems with chemistry in the O-line. There's some guys who just weren't getting the plays down sometimes, and they tightened up towards the end of the year. But I think from the get-go, just Morales really helped this year, and drafts. They both really helped us with the scheme. I remember last year we did not run outside zone very well, and now outside zone is one of our strongest plays just because we all know where we're going and we all kind of step in unison. And, so that's really drafts and Morales is doing, and it's kind of like we call a lot of RPOs, so it's kind of like they call the play and we can just run it. Of course, sometimes we mess up, it's going to happen, but for the most times we're there, so yeah.
Do you like that being on the offensive line? Do you like knowing that you might be in run protection or pass protection, depending on what it is, versus just being like a run-heavy, say, offensive line? Do you like shifting back and forth between those two?
I have no problem with it. I don't think anyone else has a big problem with it either. I think it's just what's called is called, and you go out there and you dominate. Like, you're dominating either on a pass play, you're trying to chop them down and lay on them, or on a run play, you're trying to drive them back and pancake them. So whatever it's called, you just got to go out there and dominate, and I think that's what we all love most on the line.
So listen, the one thing I got to ask you before I let you go, I know a lot of people are wondering it. What is Nate Harry like in the huddle when he comes in to call a play? Does he ever keep it light? Is he always all business? What's Nate like in the huddle for you?
Yeah, he's pretty much all business. There would be some times when we're up where he can joke around a little, but for the most part, it's just, he's calling the plays, really focused, but it's not like he's really rushing either. He's very cool, calm, and collected. I've never seen Nate get really mad or anyone. If an offensive lineman kind of makes a mistake or someone makes a mistake, I never hear him yelling or screaming at him. And that's probably what makes him such a great leader. He is really about the business during the game, and he's not going to really get up in your face and yell at you, but he's going to help kind of try and be nice to you. And, of course, there's some times where he gets a bit fired up, but it's just because we need it.
Well, Eason, listen, I got to tell you, you've had a great season. Congratulations to you and the offensive line and the whole line. I mean, the whole team. 6-0. You guys have got to be ecstatic. I wish you the best going into the long run. You got a couple more games, a couple more district games to go. So, again, best of luck, and thanks for joining us on the 320-81 Scoreboard Show.
Hey, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
So, it's kind of what we expected, right? I mean, it was a makeshift offensive line, and they've come together. And when I say makeshift, I'm not saying like pieces here and there and they're not good. But, when you got a freshman like John O'Dwyer starting and you've got the injuries that have happened, you've got Eason moving to center, this has got to be like the gold star. We're happy about this, the one question mark on the offense, because they've really done a phenomenal job and allowed Drafts to really do whatever he wants to do on offense.
Yeah, they really have. And, they're just, I think you can just label them as football players, they're not. Because they're not tied to a specific position. You've been a guard, but now we need you to play center because of the circumstances of the team and with injuries and what it's under, and just we need you to do this. And they step up and say, okay, coach, and I'll learn how to be center, and then I'll do my best to learn that craft, and that's just seemed what they've all embraced and accepted, no matter who it is, from the starters at the beginning of the year to the depth guys, when their number is called or whatever position they're in at the time. It's a very versatile line, and I think. Obviously, I know coaches love those type of players that'll just play any position. Put me in, coach. Just put me in wherever, and I'll learn it and I'll do it. And I think that's just this football players. Whatever it takes to get on the football field. And when I get on there, I'll show you why I deserve to be on there.
Agreed. And one of those guys running behind this offensive line is KJ Perry. Perry with the carry, as they say over at the Den. He finished the last game with 143 yards. He averaged just over 10 yards per carry, and he also finished with 2 touchdowns. And I asked him, one of the questions was how it is running behind this offensive line, as well as some other things. And now joining us on the 320-81 Scoreboard Show is Perry with the carry, Mr. KJ Perry. KJ, how you doing tonight, man? I know you just got out of practice.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, I'm doing good. How you doing?
How was practice? I'm doing great. How was practice tonight?
It was good. We just had a helmet only day, trying to get our minds right for Friday.
Nice. So 6-0. I know everyone says, this is a goal. This is what we work for and everything, but you guys have to be feeling pretty good after getting through the couple tough games on your schedule and being able to go 6-0 against Tocoi in a district matchup this weekend.
Yeah, so we're feeling pretty good, but we knew that we could do it from the start. Coach Jack's been saying it since over the summer that we have a great team and we could make run for states.
Last year, I thought you had a great team. You had a lot of the pieces together, but there's something different about this team on the field. It looks, even between the defense and the offense, it looks like, I hate to use the word collaborative, but it seems like, I said on one of my shows, if the offense is on the field, the defense, once they're done looking at the TV on the sideline, they're on the sidelines cheering on the offense. The offense, the same thing. It just looks like you guys have really banded together since the summer camp down in Lakeland this past summer, obviously.
Yeah, we have like a brotherhood. We believe in each other, and we have like a little like swagger to ourselves when we play against teams. And I think it just helps us play better and see each other seeing each other cheer each other on during the games.
So let me ask you this. You had a great night last Friday, 2 touchdowns, if I remember correctly, I think off the top of my head.
Yes.
And you're a great effective runner. But the question I want to ask you is this. The receiving core is lethal, and Nate's done a very good job of getting it to them. From a running back perspective, we hear a lot of times how the running game will open up the passing game. In my opinion, it seems like with so many threats that they have to account for on the receiving core, they really open up lanes for you and they spread out the defense. Would you say that's kind of true?
Yes, that's what our game plan is, to throw the ball a lot in the first and second quarter. Then they're gonna try to guard the pass, and they're just gonna run the ball off for the rest of the game.
All right, now I told you I had Eason on before your center. Talk to me about that offensive line and the holes they've been opening up for you this year.
I love them. I feel like at the beginning of the year, it's pretty tough for them because they haven't played together, but they really got a hang of it. And they just been working together, working hard, trying to learn the schemes and different fronts they got to block each week, and it's really been coming together towards the end of the season.
Now, from a running back perspective, and you're playing in the backfield with Nate Harry as your quarterback, who's a dual threat, does a great job running too. It seems like it's a 1-2 punch with both of you in the backfield. It's kind of like, especially if you guys run the RPO, what's going to happen here? Because both of you could be lethal, and it just seems like you guys there's so many weapons on the offense this year.
Yeah, they don't know who the guard is. Usually Nate tells me, you're going to get the ball this play, or I'm about to pull it. And it's be like, we just believe in each other to get the first down or score.
So before I let you go, let me ask you this. We've highlighted some of the coaches. Can you tell me a little bit about Coach Babineau, the running backs coach over at Nease, how he prepares, the 4 of you running backs, and just a little bit through the system and how well he's been as a coach for you the last couple of years?
I like Coach Babb. He's the best coach I had. He believes in us, and he trusts that we're going to get the plays done. And Coach Draft, he believes in us, and the plays he calls, he knows that we're going to get them done.
Well, KJ, I appreciate you joining us tonight. Unfortunately, we won't be back home for Nease until the Bartram game, so we probably are not going to hear Perry with a carry much over at Tocoi. I don't think we're going to see that, or Beachside that much. But I'm sure maybe we get the fans to cheering on for you. But listen, you've been great to watch, fun to watch, electrifying. Very proud of you to have a great season, and thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
I think one thing we're seeing, Anthony, from what KJ said about, working with Nate and having the defense off guard with a dual threat, and you look at Ponte Vedra, they have something similar in Drew Price and Brian Case, that really does open up things for an offense when you have linebackers and you have defensive ends having to really pay attention to 2 dual threats, and one of those can actually throw the ball. I mean, it creates confusion for the defense, and I think that's one thing that Ponte Vedra and Nease both have going for them as they go into this stretch.
Yeah, they've really seemed to master like the dual threat concept with quarterbacks that can throw it or run, and then running backs that if you just give them a little bit of a hole, they'll cower through it, and then they'll turn on the boost. I mean, it's in that concept. Both offenses are very similar, and they've really mastered kind of that, just always having the defense back on their heels. It seems like the opposing defense.
Now, the other thing, too, I think we need to talk about here is the defense for Nease before we go into talking about the future games. The second half also changed things a little bit. Joe Miracle was sitting out the first half. He came in the second half. I got to be honest with you, Anthony, I'm just happy he didn't send someone home in an ambulance. I mean, that dude came out like he was possessed. I posted on Twitter. I was like, he came out just fired up. him, Noah, and Chase Bogle ended up with sacks. Joe also caused a fumble that was recovered. I believe it was by Devon Whitley, if I remember correctly. Jacob Curry got in the mix. He also had a key pass defense. This defense is just good, Anthony. They're just darn good.
Yeah, all the way around, and yeah, Joe. I mean, the coaching staff was kind of hitting a little bit coming out of halftime. That you look out for number 6. He's going to be on a mission because he's had all that energy cooped up, and now he finally gets to get on the field.
Dude, did you see him?
Yeah.
I mean, he took some of those defensive linemen and just shoved them aside like they were pieces of paper.
And he didn't even wait until he was in linebacker mode, because on the opening kickoff of the second half, he ran down. He was the first one down there. He beat everyone down there to crush
get the
returner. So it just seemed like every play, especially early on in the second half there, he was in the backfield, and he was wearing those pink, breast cancer, wearing his pink armbands, so you couldn't miss him. It was like a highlighter just running in the backfield throughout the second half.
It was just like a highlighter. You're right. But yeah, he was definitely a man on the mission. So this defense looks good. So let's go and start talking about this week's games. Like I said, I did a little research here on this IMG varsity team. IMG's 5-2. They're going down. Everyone hears IMG and they automatically think of the national team, the one that plays on TV and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I want to put in a perspective here, because I actually am picking the Sharks to win this game. And here's why when I looked at this, Anthony. So when you look at who they beat the Episcopal School of Dallas. Okay, it's in Texas. Texas football is all different, but they're 2-6 and they won 38-28. They beat Key West. It's a 3A school who's 5-3. They beat Bayshore, who's a 3A school, who's 0-7. They beat St. John Paul II, who's 1A and 4-4, and Fort Meade, who is 1-5 in the rural district. Now, who did they lose to, you ask? I'll tell you. They lost to Manatee, who's 5A, and they're 6-1, and they lost to Hawthorne, who's rural 6-1. So here's my point. They only beat one team with a winning record. They lost. Their 2 losses came to 2 teams that had winning records, and one of those teams was in 5A. And when you look at the stats and you look at how they met, you're like, this is pretty fair. They're pretty evenly matched on rushing, passing, defense stuff. But when I look at this and I look at how the Sharks are playing and I look at really who they've beaten and what the records are and who they've played, I like the Sharks this weekend. I know a lot of people might think I'm crazy. They might think I'm out there, but I'm going with the Sharks in this game against IMG.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaning your way as well, especially when like you just laid it out there. Like 2 of the better teams they played this year are both their losses, and now Ponte Vedra, a similar team, is now coming in, and I would definitely, the Sharks are probably definitely going in. I'm sure thinking we're not just making this trip for the fun of it. We're going down, and we expect to come back with a win.
Now let me ask you this though. Let's say they go down and they fall through what we think, and they beat IMG, they come back and they play Creekside. How big is this win at IMG? Because it is IMG. Whether or not you slice it or not, they've got some of the best talent down there. They're a great school. They're a great. I always say they're a sports academy hidden as an academic school. But anyways, I mean, how big of a momentum would this be for Ponte Vedra going into their last game against Creekside and then going into the playoffs?
It would be huge because because IMG, they still have athletes, and it's always a good challenge anytime you can play an IMG Academy school, and also the trip. I think if you come back with a win, you prove that you can go on the road, a long road trip, which you'll have to face in the playoffs eventually if you keep going in the playoffs, and so now you're kind of travel tested, and you come back with a win on a trip like that, which when you now have to do it in the playoffs, you're like, we've already done this before. It's already computer programmed in your mind what a trip like that looks like, and you've got the confidence that it feels good coming back because we came back with a win. So it's all around. It can only help the Ponte Vedra just psyche of the team and the program making a trip like this, because it's just good. It's just a good case study of how the team will react to a long trip, which I believe is why Coach Price, schedule games like this.
And I'm going to make a second prediction. If they win, I don't think a lot of football players are going to be at school on Friday. I'm just going to say that. That's my other prediction right there. All right, so we go on. We look at Nease now. Now, Nease has a little bit different because Ponte Vedra comes back. They play Creekside. They're done until playoffs. Now, Nease is a little bit different because this week they're going to play Tocoi, which is a district game. They play Beachside. And then they got to make up that game at Bartram. That's a district game. They're going over to Tocoi. That's 4-4. I know Ryan Kilmer's a great quarterback. I know he's been playing well. He's got a good arm. Julio, he's back as a wide receiver, playing extremely well since he's been back after 3 games being out. But again, this is Nease we're talking about, even though it's at the Tocoi field. I think it's just too much of a matchup for Tocoi, and I see Nease is going to win this one handily, and I think they're going to pick up the next win in their race to win the district. Now, I also heard one thing real quick, Anthony, is that if Buchholz somehow loses this Friday, which I don't see it happening, to Bartram, that Nease would clinch the district with a win. But I think the district is going to come down to that last game against Bartram because I don't see Buchholz losing to Bartram.
Yeah, I mean, it really does seem like it's all, leading up to that big finale game since it's now been moved. I mean, everyone's been kind of expecting that to essentially decide the district fates of everyone, basically. So, and I think I see it kind of similar with Tocoi. Tocoi is one of those. It's a tricky team because although I really like Tocoi and I like the way they're trending and I like the players they have and the athletes they have, they seem to just be fighting kind of a little bit of inconsistency all season. They win a couple games and then they lose one, win a couple, and now they're on a 3-game losing streak, including a tough loss last week to Menendez, which I would put in this kind of the category of an upset. And so it's kind of like a team that I believe in, and I've seen the progress and the promise, but it's just kind of like they're still trying to just figure it out. And this year's kind of been a little inconsistent of a year, and you can't be really figuring it out when you go up against a team like Nease, who looks like they have figured it out. So it's just kind of the mindset of the two programs currently this football season definitely just favors the Panthers, even going on the road to Tocoi for sure.
And I think that's a big difference. I kind of alluded to it earlier, is that's a big difference between Tocoi and say Ponte Vedra, whereas Ponte Vedra's been able to reset week after week and come out and get the wins even after a loss. But it seemed like Tocoi had a very hard fought game against Beachside. It went down to the last few seconds. They came out as a loss, and I just feel like they couldn't regroup like a Ponte Vedra team could. And then they lose to a very good Buchholz team. That one goes down, and now they lost to Menendez. It just seems like they can't regroup after that loss to Beachside, and that really hurt them.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's really kind of typically the way you kind of a usual high school team goes. It's like kind of an up and down, ebb and flow type of thing. A big emotional win, and then maybe you have a flat spot the next week, and you've got coach staff is always on him and always trying to meet. That's why Ponte Vedra and Nease are looking like. That's what the special teams are able to have those special seasons, because they're able to ride out the ebbs and flows and have a nice consistent season and kind of just stay on a nice course. So it's not a surprise. Tocoi's just trying to figure it out, and definitely next year they'll probably have it figured out. That's kind of the way it goes sometimes. So I would keep looking out for Tocoi, but yeah, right now it's just Nease is just on a different course right now.
So I know they didn't give you the Ponte Vedra Recorder helicopter that one weekend. Did they give you the Ponte Vedra Recorder jet to go down to IMG, or are you going to be doing that one from locally?
Yeah, I'll do that one remotely. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great game. I wish I could go. Yeah, but
it is going to be a great game.
The 250-mile trip is a little, it's a lot.
Yeah, I didn't know if the jet was in for repairs or not, so that's why I was wondering. Yeah. And of course we'll probably see you down at Tocoi, I would imagine, for the Nease game.
Oh yeah, I'll be there for that one.
All right. Well, thank you, Anthony, for joining me again. For those of you that have not started following him, you better do so, because he's got a lot of great stuff out there for you. Follow Anthony on X at ANTNY-Rich. That is ANTNY-Rich. He's got a lot of great stuff out there for you, as well as his articles over at the PonteVedraRecorder.com. I've got it bookmarked. I read it every week. Make sure you do too, because it's fantastic. So once again, for Anthony Richards, also special thanks to Drew Price, Eason Windsor, and KJ Perry for joining us on the show. I'm the Todd, and you've been listening to the 32081 Scoreboard Show.
Thank you for listening to the 32081. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Please don't forget to subscribe to the show so you can join us for the next episode.
I never miss an episode. It's the best.
Until next time, take care.